Hello everyone, welcome back to Legally Blind. I am very excited about this video because I have literally been thinking for years about how best to show people who ask me what my eyesight is like or what the world looks like to me. And I have finally figured out a way to actually show you. I've searched a lot online to see if anyone else has come close to simulating my experience, but I haven't really found anything that does a very good job of that. Sure, if you search the words low vision simulation or scotoma, which is the medical term for these visual distortions that people can have, you will find some decent examples, but most of them will be still images that are distorted somehow, and at least for me, none of them come close to actually being accurate. So, at least to my knowledge, what you're about to see is found nowhere else on the internet, so stay tuned. Now, to be fair to the internet, it is pretty hard to simulate low vision for many reasons. First of all, not all people who have low vision see the same way. For example, some people have no central vision. Some people have central vision but no peripheral vision, which is like having tunnel vision. Some people have vision loss in both areas. Some people have in one eye more than the other, and so on. Also, the extent of vision loss differs from person to person. So there really isn't one model to show people and say, here, this is what it's like. Even for one single person, depending on the nature of their condition, depending on how tired they feel, what kind of ambient light they're in, and many other factors, they can experience fluctuations in their own vision. Also, many of us with low vision learn to ignore these scotomas as our brain adapts to efficiently collect as much visual information as possible, so it becomes difficult to describe. So even for me, I had to think a lot about how best to approximate my experience for you. But I think I finally have it, so let's jump right into it. The most challenging thing about my own eyesight is the loss of central vision, which at this point in time looks something like this. You can see that it looks kind of like TV static or like really bad noise that you would have on your camera if you set your ISO too high or something. Right at the center of the field of view, the scotoma is almost totally opaque, meaning I can't see anything behind there. I could still tell if there was a super bright light shining there or something, but that's about it. As we move away from the center a bit, sort of into that bigger circle, it seems to be a bit more transparent, but it's still pretty noisy and difficult to see stuff behind there. Outside this circle, my peripheral vision is much better in bright daylight, but even that has some noise in it, as you can see. My dog says hi, by the way. Now, central vision, or the part right at the center of your field of view, is where most normally sighted people have the sharpest, clearest color vision. Without central vision, anything that requires high acuity or the ability to see detail becomes very difficult or even impossible to do. Also, just by having an interrupted field of view, there will be tasks that are difficult or impossible or dangerous. For example, driving is out of the question for me, because this is how I would be seeing the road. An entire car can be hidden behind these scotomas and I wouldn't even know it was there, unless I look at it with my periphery. Facial recognition and the ability to follow people's facial expressions can also be pretty hard for me, especially if I'm sitting with a lot of people at once and they're not all sitting close to me. It becomes pretty difficult because the ability to see facial expressions is something that requires quite a bit of detailed vision. This also bothers me a lot in crowded scenes that have a lot of stuff in them, like in a supermarket. Definitely cannot read anything on these jars without magnification, and the whole thing can be rather overwhelming. Difficulty reading is probably the one thing that impacts my life the most. Reading is an activity that requires really high visual acuity, which peripheral vision simply does not have. That's why the only way I could read anything like a book or a newspaper or a restaurant menu is to magnify it as much as possible so that I can read it in my periphery. course, this applies also to things like using my phone or looking at a watch and so on. Having no central vision is also why when I'm talking to people, it never looks like I'm looking straight at them. Because if I did look straight at them, I wouldn't be able to see them. I would have to look at a point slightly above or below their faces in order to see them. It is also why people who have known me for a while will notice that my eyes move around a lot, especially in dim light or at night. This is because I'm trying to build a complete picture of my surroundings using only my peripheral vision. So by moving my eyes quickly around the room, I can have a more complete picture. Now, as soon as we're no longer in bright sunlight outdoors, immediately there will be a lot more noise in my field of view. Even in the periphery, as you can see here in this clip of me walking through my house. Being a diver and a marine biologist, I've also been underwater quite a lot, where light is much dimmer than it is on land. I can still, of course, appreciate the amazing beauty of these creatures and ecosystems, but it does make my job pretty difficult. Now, at night, things can get a bit scary. A scene like this one, for example, is a nightmare for me. The pitch blackness with points of blinding light and reflective floor make scenes like this very confusing. A normally sighted person could easily see, for example, that there's a person there, but I cannot see any people unless they move, and I often cannot tell the difference between the actual lights and their reflections on the floor. I am usually rather nervous and extra cautious when walking through scenes like this. Of course, when it's this dark, the noise goes up significantly, and these two scotomas that look kind of like halos on either side become much more pronounced because of the bright points of light. This is also a problem in movie theaters. Obviously, I couldn't film inside the theater, but I just snapped this picture quickly to show you. Even though I sit close to the front, I still struggle to see movies properly. And of course, reading any subtitles is out of the question. I still love going to the movies though. And this here is what large lecture halls look like to me. Having been in academia for so long, I have pretty much given up on trying to follow along with any PowerPoint presentations. I just learned to mostly listen and to use assistive technologies to zoom in and magnify screens in really important lectures. Well, there you have it, guys. I've given you a taste of what the world looks like to at least some people with low vision. Again, this is my experience and it differs from one person to the other. But I also hope this has given you a bit more of an appreciation and understanding of some of the difficulties or challenges of life with low vision. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Did this look anything like what you imagined or expected? Consider subscribing to my channel and becoming a patron to support me and to get some extra exclusive perks. Thank you all for watching, and special thanks to my patrons Jessica Masterman, Rowan Khalil, and Robert Templeton. See you in the next video.